October 2017, Jane, Pat Mitchell, and I took off from Philadelphia to Athens, Greece, where we met up with Barbara Wolf. Stayed 2 days in Athens. Jane and I had not been there since 1972. Here we are in 72, and voila, here we are 45 years later. Time does fly, I'll tell you that. Had beautiful weather in Athens, did a lot of sightseeing, saw the changing of the guard. Then after 2 days, got on the Regent Voyager and began our 12-day cruise of the Eastern Mediterranean. Each of us is celebrating our 70th birthdays this year, and that's why we had a little birthday cake. The sun was setting as we left Athens and headed to Patmos, small Greek island. St. John wrote his book of Revelations when he was on Patmos. He lived to be 95 years old. Tiny island, you can actually walk from one side to the other right there in the middle in about 10 minutes. And beautiful scenery. And you can tell by this next picture, I could have made some money there selling my olive oil and honey. We went from Patmos to Rhodes, where we went up to the Acropolis. Barbara and I got all the way up there. It was a hot, dusty day, but we made it. And it was well worth it because the view from the top there is spectacular. There we go. Beautiful blue Mediterranean Sea in the background. Jane and I had a little lunch near the Acropolis, and then we went into town and visited an old castle where the Order of St. John had stayed when they were on the island. Rhodes, we went to Cyprus, saw an old archaeologic site, and then went to Nicosia, where you can see the dividing line between the Turks and the Greeks. Not a wall, just a little place where they checked the passport. On to Israel, and my first trip was to Masada. Always wanted to go to Masada. There it is, top of that hill. King Herod had built a city there, and then the Jews took over the city after the sack of Rome. Romans came and decided they're going to conquer these people and get them off that citadel. Romans actually made this ramp to get up to the city. When they got there, all the Jews had committed suicide. I also visited the Dead Sea. Didn't swim in it because I had swum in the Great Salt Lake before. There were a lot of flies there, and this couple had the right idea. They put up a little net and keep the flies away. That day, Jane went to Galilee and the River Jordan. They were actually doing some baptisms the day she was there. We both visited Jerusalem. On my tour, the bus stopped at this little diner which had nothing but Elvis inside. This is the Wailing Wall. It was Friday. It was packed with people. They actually divide women from the men at the Wailing Wall. And then this is the street that Christ went down, and they have it marked with the Stations of the Cross as he went to his crucifixion. This is Haifa as the boat is pulling out in the evening time. And from Israel, we headed to the island of Crete. We took this bus tour up these windy roads to this monastery. You can see these nuns did not want to have their picture taken, but these three Catholic girls had no problem having their picture taken. Or lighting candles, if you wish. We went from the monastery to this plateau. These are all windmills. For years, they'd used these windmills to pump water out of the ground. We had stopped at a little restaurant there. There's the menu, if you can read it quickly in Greek. Jane and I walked around the port city for a while. People out sailing. We walked up and had a drink in the town square. From Crete, we went to Malta. There's a view from our cabin. They have a picture of what the front of the boat is seeing. There's Malta, the town. It's packed with people. I think there are like 400,000 people on the island. Almost all of them live in the city. That was just a picture of, they had a journalist who had been car bombed the week before. They've had 4 journalists car bombed in the last year. I'm on the outskirts of an island. This is relatively uninhabited island of Gozo. You can see, compared to Malta, the island of Malta, this is just farmland. Our guide said, "What do you think of this dome?" I looked there. He says, "Well, it's not really a dome. It's just an optical illusion. That's a flat roof. They painted it to make it look like a dome. This is somebody's tomb, and he's trying to tell you that time flies." From Sicily, and then we went on to Sicily. Little shopping. Almost everywhere we went, you could shop. Taormina, pretty little town in northeast Sicily. And there's always time for a little cappuccino and a pastry, anywhere you are in Italy. And they'd had the G7 meeting there, and they had an ice cream flavor just named after Trump. The night before we got there, Mount Etna had snow, and pretty impressive sight seeing that volcano just arising straight up, almost out of the water, thousands of feet high. Sicily, it was on to Sorrento. There's Sorrento there. Jane and I had visited Sorrento just a couple of years ago, so we actually took these little tenders out to the island of Capri. Here we are on Anacapri. It was a beautiful day that day. Oops, another time to have a little cappuccino and pastry. Like I said, anywhere you go in Italy, you can have a cappuccino and maybe a cannoli if you're lucky. Ships pulling out. There's Mount Vesuvius in the background. And on the other side of the ship was Capri as the sun was going down. Then the boat ended in Rome. We had had a great trip, 4 of us. Pat and Barbara headed back home. Jane and I extended our trip and went up to Managlia to visit Patty and Alessandro, picking olives there. I think we picked 267 pounds of olives in 2 days. Jane and I took a walk from Santa Margherita out to Portofino, and that picture of the tree was along the way. Here's breakfast in Managlia. That's always a treasure. And then we went down to the Bar Centrale for a cocktail on Halloween Eve. Even the goblins are out in the Bar Centrale. In the trip, Patty, Alessandro, Pico, and I went to Courmayeur looking for snow, and we found a little bit.